Bonjour everyone and welcome back to my channel The Ways of Your Soul. Today I wanted to do a video showcasing my most used tarot decks of 2021. So these are the tarot decks that I tend to come back to again and again and again. I've done the video showcasing my top 5 tarot decks of 2021 in terms of the one that came out in 2021, and so I'm not including any of those in this video so it's not redundant, but those 5 decks that for me were the outstanding decks that came out in 2021, they are of course included in this list of my most used tarot deck of the year. I just wanted to do 2 different videos, one where I'm going to be showing you my favorite decks that came out, so my top 5, which is going to come either before or after this video, and this one where it's my most used tarot decks of the year, not necessarily that are new, some of them I've had for a long time, but they're just one that I tend to use again and again and again. And I'm also doing a top 5 Oracle decks of the year. If you're new here, hello, my name is Marine, I'm a French tarot reader and a lover of everything tarot, oracle and self-empowerment related. I love tarot decks, which is going to be fairly obvious in this video with the insane amount of decks I'm going to show you today. I love oracle cards, I love reading the cards as well, and so on my channel you'll find content on tarot and oracle, but also empowering tarot readings that are all geared around helping you help yourself, as that's very much my vibe. And so if you'd like to see any of those things on your timeline, make sure to hit the subscribe button. You can join the tide, I would love that. So without further ado, let's have a look at my most used tarot decks of 2021. Okay, so I have a lot of decks to show you. And for some of you, you might think, how can someone use that many tarot decks in a year? It's too much. But you know what? I read for myself a lot. I do a lot of readings and I don't just do daily cards, right? I actually don't do a lot of daily card readings. I tend to do a lot more bigger readings for myself. I like to do spiritual readings. I like to do empowering readings. I like to do sometimes predictive readings. Sometimes it's very day-to-day life. Sometimes it's a lot more spiritual. Sometimes I'm going to be exploring past life. I might be doing something around, the moon phases, etc. I just do a lot of readings. I also like reading for friends and family, and I also, of course, offer pick a card readings on my channel. I'm gonna try and keep this quite short, but we know I can talk for England, France, Europe and the whole of the Indian Ocean, so let's go. Let's start with those 4 decks right here. My first 4 tarot decks. Why do I say I don't want to go too much into it is because those 4 I talk about in most of my videos, and so they're always on my router of decks, and so of course this is why they're part of my most used tarot decks of 2021. The Stunning Tarot by Yana Sayas, the Next World Tarot by Christy C. Rode, the El Goliath Tarot, which is an indie deck. Those 3 are indie decks and this is mass market. Finally, the Shimmering Veil. All of those are just part of my practice. I talk about them in most of my videos. I go more in depth in my If I Could Only Keep 10 decks. Those are definitely 4 of them. So I won't go too much into it. If you want to see, I'll leave a card up somewhere on the screen if you want to see more of those decks, but those ones are just some that I come back to again and again and again, and so they are just part of my rotation. And I want to show you more decks that I use a lot today, so I don't want to go too much into it, but very briefly, the Shimmering Veil Tarot is one of those decks that I go for spiritual reading, connecting with my guides, connecting with my higher self, with the divine source, the universe, however you like to call it. The Stunning Tarot is just one of my top 3. I love it. It's very fantasy inspired, it's very bright colored, it helps me escape, I like to use it for that. The Next World Tarot is one of the most healing decks out there for me. The guidebook is amazing, the images are very nurturing, and for personal reason, this is one that I tend to go to when I'm just not feeling so great, or one of them at least, so I always come back to it. And finally, the Goliath Tarot is my main shadow work deck, or what people call shadow work, which I guess my version of shadow work is trigger work, looking at what triggers me, my subconscious ways maybe that I'm distorting reality because of my own wounds and my own traumas. This is one I tend to go back to for that. And also when I need to connect with more raw shamanic nature energy, this is just a great all-rounder. So those 4 are definitely decks that I come back to again and again and again. So if you want to see more of them, you can check out my if I could only hit 10 videos. So let's move on to two decks that I use every full moon and new moon, and so they are in my most used of the year because I use them every month. So this one on the left is one that I got last year. It was in my most used decks of last year and it still is for this year. This is a Dark Goddess Tarot. It's a mass market edition of a deck that used to be indie. So I will leave the names of all the decks I mentioned today in the description box below. As the name suggests, Dark Goddess Tarot, this is a goddess deck. So this actually comes in a big box that, I don't know where I put the box, to be honest. I'm a mess. But I've kept the guidebook nearby because I use those two in combination together. So I'll pull one goddess every new moon and I'll read the guidebook. And this guidebook is amazing. One of my favorite tarot guidebooks ever. Not because it teaches you about tarot, but because it teaches you about everything else but tarot. This is amazing if you want to dive into the divine feminine, if you want to dive into self-empowerment, into getting to know yourself. This is a bit shadow worky as well, I think, and it's definitely very powerful, very potent deck. The writing is amazing, and so every new moon I do a tarot reading and usually I pull one goddess. Because you get the goddess, you don't just get that level of meaning, you also get the meaning of the tarot card that you pulled. So, for example, if you pull the Norns, you would get the whole story about those three deities, but you would also get on top of that the meaning of this Three of Pentacles. And so I love that for my dark moons, my new moons kind of readings. I found that it's been very helpful for me to do that, and it's a nice practice to come back to every month. Sometimes I don't do it exactly on the new moon, and that's okay, you know, I'm not putting pressure on myself. I just try and do it around that time. I've done it also maybe around just when I felt I needed one of those messages. The messages are so rich and there's so much to go into with each of the goddess plus the tarot message layered that actually one card is enough to last me for the month. And so I tend to keep that card on my altar somewhere or near my desk, and then I can kind of keep coming back to that message. And it's been a really nice practice, and I think I'm going to continue using it next year for sure. Actually, Athena was the last one I got. So that's interesting. She's coming back up to say hello. This one is definitely one of my most used. I love this. I always use it with the guidebook. Honestly, I don't think I would use this deck without the guidebook because I don't know enough about goddesses to begin with to feel comfortable enough to use it just as a normal tarot deck. Plus I feel like you miss out a lot if you don't use the guidebook because it's such a great one. The deck I use every full moon is a Wild Messengers Alchemical Tarot. Now this comes with an amazing guidebook that you can get separately from this particular deck. And honestly, I got those two in a bundle deal together because at the time they had this deal on, but if I was to do this again, I would probably just get the book and not get the tarot because I could never again use the tarot deck without the guidebook. I just can't. And the reason why is because this, even though it does follow some kind of a tarot system, it also definitely has been renamed and reworked a lot. This is an animal deck. It's an indie deck, by the way. And every card is a different animal. It's all alchemical based, element based. They have renamed the major arcana. And as you can see on every single card, you have the number and you have the element, and that corresponds to the suit in the tarot. And the court cards are also renamed, so you don't have page, knight, queen, etc. You have masters, teachers, spirit, and I can't remember the last one. So it's just too difficult for me to use this as a regular tarot deck to do spreads on, and you know, I just, one, don't know enough about animal medicine to do that, to be completely honest, and two, the fact that it's so stretched out to more traditional tarot systems that I tend to prefer, which is mostly RWS, even though I do enjoy pip decks as well. I don't really find myself using it for tarot, and so this is why, for me, honestly, even though the artwork is amazingly beautiful and you know, it's stunning, etc., you don't need the deck. Really, you don't. Because the main thing why I use this for is the guidebook. I'm just trying to grab it, which looks like this, which is huge, which is amazing. This is one of my, maybe the best, maybe at least, I don't know, that's a big claim. I guess in my top three of my favorite tarot guidebooks ever, that you can buy separately from the tarot, and that honestly is so much worse for me than the deck. I love this book. It's full of information on tarot, on animal medicine, on alchemy. For every single card you get, so for the minors, for every single card you get an invocation, you get a message as if the animal speaks directly to you. There's a ton of spreads there. There's an introduction around what is alchemy linked with spirituality. And for the majors, you get all of that, plus you get journaling prompts or meditation or exercises, visualization exercises. Like, there is so much. Plus, look at this beautiful, like, look how gorgeous is that. That's just amazing. Look, this is, for example, for the Hierophant, we have Ancestors Journaling Prompt. How great is that? This deck and this guidebook together for every single full moon. Same thing, usually I pull 1 to 2 cards and then I keep it for that month. It's one of those that I think you could definitely use every day, but the messages are so deep that personally I like to work them for a bit longer. So at least 2 weeks or 2 a month. And sometimes I'll do new moon to full moon, sometimes I'll do full moon to full moon, so the whole month. And it's been wonderful. I journal sometimes about it, sometimes I just ponder on the messages, revisit them, look at the card throughout the month, see how it comes up, etc. And it's been a great experience. So those two have that very particular use for me in my collection, and I feel like I'm gonna continue doing that for next year because it's been bringing me a lot of insight. Okay, let's move on to decks I use the most for everyday readings, when I need an answer, when I need to do very basic day-to-day readings for myself. So things around my day-to-day life, mundane questions, I would say. Those 4 decks are the decks I tend to go to, with maybe even more so those two. So this is the Handsome Roberts Tarot, and this is the Aquarian Tarot. But both of those I think are US games, and both of those are decks that are from the 90s, so they've been around for a few decades. My copies are very recent, you can still get those decks easily on Book Depository, etc. But they've been out for a long time. And why for me those two work the best for my mundane day-to-day reading is because they just tell it to me like it is. I could put the RWS as well, in the traditional RWS, I could put that for my day-to-day readings as well. But this year I've just tend to gravitate more towards those two. I guess also the fact that they're small is definitely a good incentive to use them a lot, because at least this one, the Aquarian Tarot, that is, I have the tin version. I also very recently now have the bigger version, the regular, it's not bigger, it's just regular tarot size, because I loved it so much in a tin. I actually got it in regular size. I haven't had it for that long, like a couple of days, but I'm so happy to have it in a regular version as well, because actually this tin one lives in my bag, and so this is the one that I use for on-the-go readings, like when I want to do a little tarot reading when I'm at the physio, or when I'm going for a walk or anything like that, then this is the one I use. So I guess the fact that it's small is definitely a good one. But also I have found that both of those decks, so this one, which is the Aquarian Tarot, or the Handsome Roberts Tarot, I believe that because they've been around for a long time, they just read better. And that makes no sense, okay? This is logically, it doesn't make any sense. So this is the Handsome Robert Tarot. I know it doesn't make any sense. When I'm telling you this, I'm sure there's probably people watching this video thinking, what is she on about? I have this theory that when a deck has been around for a few decades, it ends up being used by so many different people that it picks up a lot of I guess a lot of energy. Like, it just gets better and better and better by all the readings it's doing. And I know that it doesn't really make sense because my copy is new technically. I mean, I've had it for a year or so. Nobody else has used this than me, but a lot of people are using this imagery, and so in my head, that's why they read so well. And again, it doesn't make any sense, but those two decks read so well. They are like snipers, just straight to the point. They really, for me, get to the core of the issue. They're the kind of decks that no matter what is going on, no matter if I'm feeling troubled or sad or anxious or angry or anything like that, they're gonna help me to decipher what is going on from a very bird's eye point of view, from a very Queen of Swords, clear-minded point of view, and I need that, especially for things that are more day-to-day, right? So those two have just been great, not just because they're like small, because like I said, I've definitely taken those a lot of different places, but also because I find that they read really well. Again, maybe because they're older, maybe it's in my head, and you know it, but even if it's in my head, it works. So let me live my fantasy. The other two decks I like for those very direct, day-to-day, practical, I guess that's the word I was looking for, practical reading. We have the Tarot of the Holy Spectrum. Yep, this is an indie deck by Chase Voorhees, and here is the Illuminated Tarot by Kim Huggins, I think. So this is indie, this is mass market. I'm going to show you this one first. This is definitely one of my most used decks from this year and from last year, because again, for me, this definitely hits the spot in terms of what deck I use for practical readings, for when maybe I'm reading for myself and I need to know what's going on without spending too much time deciphering, without having to learn a new system, without having to read a guidebook, without having to live the spread for days because I'm trying to understand what's going on and I want to give myself a headache. No, this is those decks that I go for like wham bam, thank you ma'am, you do your reading, you get what you need out of it, you close it off, move on. You don't even need to really journal about it because it's just that, yep, got it, thank you, next. Listen, I love a good tarot deck that's gonna teach me things, for sure. I love a project. Yeah, I love a project. I love learning new things. I love, you know, decks that where I'm gonna be using the guidebook, etc. But I also really appreciate, depending on the mood, a deck that I can just go to, ask my question and move on. And this really does that for me. The cool thing about it is all those colors. It's called Tarot of the Holy Spectrum because it follows the spectrum of light, so it's full of bright colors. And for me this works so well because the person who created this deck is the partner of a tarot teacher called Lindsay Mack, who, if you don't know her work, I highly encourage you to check out her work. She has courses, podcasts, a ton of stuff, and she's just brilliant, and I really align with her vision of tarot. And so because this was created by her partner, this vision of tarot is very resonant with how I view it as well, just because we, you know, I have a similar view of the cards. Look at this Hierophant. Can we take a moment? The Hierophant is my birth card, and I love, absolutely love when someone does something else than a Pope. Nothing against the Pope, I just like to see something new from time to time, especially in modern decks. And this one, it's like, look at those guides whispering to you what you need to know. Talk about a master, a teacher, and connecting with your higher self. Oh, I love it. This deck is brilliant, and I actually use it a lot, not just for practical day-to-day readings. This is a pocket knife kind of deck for me, where, you know, those swift knives that can help you cut things, and they have a screwdriver, and they have like a nail file and all of those things. This is that for me. Oh, the backs are plain black, by the way, which I quite like, and it came pre-edged in black. But I think I forgot to say I have the first edition. I think a couple of the images have since been changed. I think the back now maybe looks slightly different, so have a look on Chase's website. I'll leave it down below because the second edition might not be exactly the same, but very, very similar, I would say. And yeah, this is definitely for me a Swiss pocket knife that I can do a lot of things with, so it's one I've used a lot this year. Another one I tend to go a lot to is the Illuminati Tarot, and now this is such a surprise because I would have never ever picked this deck for myself. I have the French version, so in French it's Tarot Illuminati by Eric C. Dune, and I think the artwork is the book is by Kim Huggins. Like I said, I would have never ever picked this deck for myself, but this was actually a birthday present from my mom, and she doesn't know, she doesn't read the cards. Like, I read the cards for her, but it's just, she's very aware that it's one of my passions, so when she goes to the bookshop and she sees a tarot deck, if it looks cool, she'll pick it up for me. And this was one of those. She saw that there was this one and she picked it up, knowing I love tarot, not really knowing what this tarot was about. And I didn't really even know this deck existed. I think I had seen the other deck by Eric C. Dune, which is Tarot Apocalypsis, but not really this one. And I will say, normally I don't think this would have been my aesthetic, because as you can see, it's very busy. It's like digital collage, and it's like bam, in your face, explosion of colors, details. Look at this Queen of Swords. There is so much going on in this card. Like, sometimes my eyes feel a little bit attacked, but in a good way, because I've actually discovered that this deck reads fantastically well, especially for any readings that I'm doing around creativity. So if I'm doing a reading around my creativity, passion, ideas, getting my creativity juices flowing, for example, ideas for my channels, like video ideas, for example, on new readings I want to do or things like that, just an example. Or if I want to do any creative writing for fun, then this is the deck I go to, because it really, for me, is very sacral chakra, fire energy, like Leo vibes, Aries vibe, Sagittarius vibes, that very fire energy. This deck is that for me, the passion, the movement, the let's go, pick up your back and let's go. Again, would have never picked it up for myself, but I love it, so thank you, Mom. You picked it really well. I love the bright colors, I love the craziness about it. Some people may not know that, at least in the French version, the guidebook it comes with is slightly small, but on Kindle, I found an actually much bigger guidebook to this, called The Complete Guide of Tarot Illuminati, I think, in English, and I think I paid like €9 for it. And it is amazing, so good. I really appreciate Kim Huggins' writing, so that's also been fun to study this deck deeper through the Kindle ebook. Not that the book that it comes with there's nothing wrong with that, it's just this other one that you can get on Kindle is even better. I will say these are the worst tarot backings I have ever seen, and this is the French version, and look at that. It's like on every single card we get the name of the deck and the artist name. When I first got this deck, I was convinced that this was a mistake of printing and that someone had used the title card and put it on all the backs of my decks. And I literally was about to write to someone who publishes this, the publisher. I think Dervy in French. This is the box it came with, by the way. The French version. Yeah, I was so close to contacting them, writing them a letter and being them like, I think you made a mistake in the printing, or I think I got a wrong, printing. The title card on my whole deck. And then someone watched my video and said, oh no, this is what it's like. They just hate us like that. Wow, this is a choice. This is a choice. But you know what? I got over my very superficial attitude, and I really enjoy this deck now. So I can overlook the most disgusting backings ever, because it's actually a great deck, and it's teaching me to be less of a judgmental bitch. So love that one. Definitely one I use a lot. Okay, this is one that I don't tend to show a lot on my channel because it's out of print. So usually I try to not show it too much because I don't want to create FOMO, but if I want to be completely honest and transparent with you, it is one I use a lot throughout the year. And this is a Majestic Earth Tarot by J.D. Hildegard Hinkle. So this is the same person that did the Tarot of Delphi, which is out of print as well, that goes for a ridiculous amount of prices, and I think this one is also out of print, so I don't know for how much it goes now. I know that you can probably find it on eBay or Facebook trading groups, things like that. I just don't know for how much it goes. This is why I don't really want to showcase it too much on my channel normally, because I don't want people to, you know, feel bad if they can't get it, but I do use it a lot. So if I want to be honest with you, I'm gonna show it to you. So it comes with some landscape cards that are related to the elements. So they're really beautiful, and I tend to use those a lot for altar cards, like setting intention. If I want to work with water or earth or fire, I use them a lot. So already that's the way I use that deck. And the way that this deck is built or designed is that here are the backs, by the way, reuses original artwork from the Hudson River School, Lemanism, European Romanticism, Russian Realism, and the American West. And yes, I've just read that straight out of the box, because I'm not an art pro. Not about to tell you everything, because I don't really know. I just really enjoy those images. So this is purely landscape images. There's very little people in this deck. Mostly it's landscape, it's nature, and I have a very specific way I use this deck, and it's mostly pathworking. So for me, I use this deck mostly for meditation and for pathworking. So when I'm feeling a bit anxious, a bit stressed, overwhelmed, you know, just like my mind is going way too fast and I can't sleep or things like that, I find that consciously choosing a card, or unconsciously, sometimes I choose the card side up, sometimes shuffle the card and pick one, and to look at the cards and letting the cards speak to me, kind of forgetting about the tarot meaning. I mean, there are keywords, there's definitely a tarot system, like there's 21 major arcana, there's 4 suits, there's court cards, etc. It's element based because of the landscape idea, and as you can see on every single card there are keywords and some astrological association and alchemical association too sometimes. You can use this as a tarot deck, but it's not really how I use it. I use it more for, oh, this is one of my favorite cards. I use it more for, like I said, meditation, getting my mind to pause and just enjoying the art. When I'm feeling really stressed, I can't sleep, etc., I will pull a card, look at the card, and then I'll write what it makes me think of. So I'll do some journaling, sometimes I'll do some visualization, sometimes I'll just look at it and let my mind wander, project myself in the images without trying to divine a meaning, really. Without trying to think, oh, I got the Wheel of Fortune, what does it mean? No, just purely enjoying the artwork and letting it take me somewhere else. 2021 has been a very difficult year. I mean, look, for me it's been like at least 3 to 4 years of difficult years, to be honest, so this one was popped out quite a lot. I've definitely needed to escape quite a lot. I mean, as I'm sure a lot of people have this year and last year. I don't really feel the need to use it for tarot readings. I've been thinking maybe I should try and do this almost like creating a spread with this deck in mind, thinking of like studying the landscape of your soul. So how is your soul looking right now? And you know, pull some cards, and whether is it raining, is it dark, is it bright, is it sunny, are there mountains, is there water? Like, I find that very interesting. I think I'm gonna explore that in the next year. Okay, let's move on to decks I go to when I need to be bitch slapped, or the decks I went to at least. In the month of 2021, I needed to look at all the things I don't want to look at, my triggers, my wounds, my projections, my, you know, the dark side of my psyche, all of that. A lot of things that people call shadow work. That's my version of shadow work anyway, looking at my trauma, my wounds, my projections, etc. That's how I do shadow work. And when I'm not using the Goliath Tarot, this year I've mostly used those two. I did also use the Deviant Moon Tarot, but just not as much. And so I felt like if I wanted to be really honest about the most used tarot deck of the year, those two are the ones I went the most with. Now, this one I don't think any of those really was designed for shadow work, but they just work for me. So let me start with this. This is the Omegaland Tarot. This is a mass market deck. I think this is also US Games. I love US Games. I have so many decks from them. I'm realizing doing my end of the year videos that I think as a mass market publisher, they have a lot of cool, unique, different decks. I like them. So this is actually, you can use both as a tarot deck and a card game. Like there's some extra card that explains to you how you can use this as almost like a board game. I've never used it like that because I've never felt the need to, but you could if you want to. And here are the backs. They look like someone who's been boarding up their windows, because the premise of this deck is that it's based on a post-apocalyptic world. So in this particular deck, the earth has gone to shit, something has happened, hashtag we can relate, and people are trying to survive, and they're trying to survive in a way that sometimes is very compassionate and loving and kind, and sometimes in a way where it's very violent and mean and jealous and aggressive. And so this deck in that sense showcases the full variety of humans' reaction towards adversity, the good, the bad, and definitely the ugly. This deck shows violence. You'll have guns, you have arrows, you have people being pierced by both guns and arrows. Beware. I do feel like the fact that it's cartoonish looking makes it less gruesome, but you know, there's people that have been shot, things like that. So to make it in line with the theme of the deck, the cups are represented by water, I don't know how you call that, water tanks, I guess. What do you call that? The coins are actually canned food. That makes a lot of sense. The swords are crossbows, which again makes a lot of sense. And finally, for the wands, we have guns for that firepower. And as you can see, this deck is very unique. I don't have any deck like this that really showcases post-apocalyptical, how people react. For example, the Six of Wands, instead of like seeing someone riding on a horse, victorious post-war, etc., we have three people that obviously won some kind of like shoot off against others that lost. And so this is showing you the victory side, but it's also showing you the side of like, at what cost? At what cost did you win? And so every card has that double-edged meaning, really. And so this is why for me it's been a fantastic, really fantastic shadow work deck. Not only because it's so great with what is going on in the world right now, but also just personally. It's helped me a lot to look at some situations in a new way. This is definitely a hidden gem, for sure. I don't see that many people talk about it, and yet I find it super, super powerful and super unique. The one thing I don't like about it is that there is absolutely no diversity, in sense of there's no ethnicity diversity, there's very little age diversity, body size diversity. Now, when I need to truly be bitch slapped by a deck, this one is very good. This is the Soul Shadow Tarot by Yena, illustrated by Ronin Panda. A little bit of a disclaimer, this is very out of print. And when I say very out of print, I mean that it's very sought after, that it's very expensive, I think, from what I've heard now to get it. And so again, this is one you barely see on my channel when I talk about decks. I use it for reading on my channel, pick a card readings and stuff like that. I don't really show it on my channel a lot because again, I don't want to create FOMO. But if I want to be very honest with you about what I used the most this year, then this has been one I received this year that I've used a ton since I've got it. And the reason why it's very, very out of print is because this deck uses a lot of pop culture references that could create problems in terms of copyright. So it's not so Yena is not able to release this widely because there could be some copyright problems there. And if you don't know who Yena is, if you're a French-speaking person, definitely go check out her channel. She's one of my favorite tarot channel that is French-speaking. She's a fantastic tarot reader. She has a lot of courses on tarot and pop culture. She has one on cartomancy that I really want to do, like reading traditional cards. That's one I want to do next year for sure. And her tarot readings are just thebomb.com. She's one of those readers that are just fantastic. But as you can see, this is very rooted in pop culture, modern day and pop culture. And you might look at this deck and you know it's full of like references to real life people or Disney. Here's for example Up. Oh my god, that movie, every time the music, just I hear like 3 notes of the music and I cry. I can't deal with that movie, it's too much. Yeah, this is like Yena's vision of tarot through pop culture. Yoda for Justice, I feel like that's pretty inspired. Although I feel like Yoda could have been strengths, right, as well, because the Force, like hello. That's pretty cool. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I still like Yoda as Justice. So what was I saying? Yeah, you might look at this deck and think, oh, you know, we have Jon Snow, we have Beauty and the Beast, we have, you know, Dumbledore. How can this be a shadow work deck? I can't explain it. I don't know what it is about this deck. It literally makes me look at my shit in a way where sometimes I'm not even ready for it. It's like not even in a gentle way. It's like I'm gonna punch you until you fall your bum on the floor and you have no choice but to look at it. Oh my god, this deck is like, it's a lot, okay? But I love it. There's probably someone watching right now that's like, she sounds like she has some serious issues. Saying she loves to be bitch slapped by this tarot deck. I do, okay? I'm always asking for more. But I will say, this is not a deck I can go to every day. Like, if I'm feeling really low already, this is just gonna push me over the edge, okay? So I need other decks for when I'm feeling low, and sometimes when I'm feeling good, or just normal. But I need to look at the situation and really see the truth for it and look at how maybe I'm getting in my own way or things like that. Then this one is great, but it is very direct. This is very Gemini vibes. It's very Gemini. Queen of Swords. I'm gonna cut through the matter and tell it how it is. Now I'm not gonna be, you know, dialing around it. I'm just gonna tell you what's what. It might hurt your feeling. It will probably, most definitely hurt your feelings, but at least you know where you stand now. This is the vibe of this deck. It's not cruel, but it's also not kind. That's the best way I can describe this deck. It's not cruel, but it's definitely not kind. And sometimes I need that. I obviously need that quite a lot because I've used it quite a lot this year, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So let's move on. When I don't want to be hurt, which to be fair is a lot of the time, I have a pile of decks that I tend to go to that are for, you know, helping me get through shitty moments. So we're gonna be looking at those now. First two I want to talk about in that more nurturing, kind, compassionate / putting a smile on my face category. We have the Cosmic Cycles Tarot and the Fortune Queen's Tarot. Both of those are indie decks. This one seems to be coming in and out of print, and so I don't know, is it in print, is it not? It's a mystery. I've heard it might come back. I don't know if at the time of me filming this it will, but I'll still leave the name of the artist etc below so you can check it out. And this one is definitely still in print. So let's start with this and look at how they're both purple. Like, this is a vibe. So the Cosmic Cycles Tarot I used a lot this year. Here are the backs, by the way, and I should potentially edge this in purple really. I'm gonna do that, I think. So this deck is very, for me, very healing, very nurturing, and it's decks I go to when I'm feeling overwhelmed. This is a deck I go to when, usually it's when I'm feeling very flared up. You know, I navigate the waters of chronic pain. I'm currently recovering through a very big illness kind of journey where I've gone through a lot. My body has gone through a lot. I've had to relearn how to walk again in the past couple of years. I've had to relearn how to use my arm again. I still go to physical therapy a few times a week. It used to be every single day. Now I'm on 2 to 3 times a week. And my health journey has very much been at the center focus point of my life in 2020, 2021, 2019, you know. It's been ongoing, but 2021, you know, my focus has still been my body and how to recover all the things that I could do before I got ill. And I have some much better days than I did have before, but I still have some very bad days. I still don't really have a day where I'm not in pain. So this deck is one I tend to go to for those days when I'm stuck in bed and I'm in a lot of pain, because I find it very healing. The colors are very beautiful, very soft. And the particularity of this deck is that you find the same characters throughout. So you'll see this character living their life in a lot of the different cards, but not necessarily in one suit. They'll cross and meet and, you know, join together throughout the deck. And it's nice because it's like real life. This is maybe one of the most modern deck I have. Like the Seven of Cups is someone picking their ice cream. I love that. It's just so relatable. And this deck, it just brings me a lot of comfort, a lot of hope. It obviously celebrates things that are very close to my heart, like the queer community, for example. So I really appreciate this deck for that, because a lot of my best friends are from the queer community, so it's something that's super important to me. I find the colors really soothing. I love just how every single archetype is depicted is something that I can resonate with. Look at this Page of Swords. That's beautiful. The Hangman as a climber, I love that. And of course, because of my health story and me, you know, still having to go to physical therapy a lot, and me still spending so much time trying to get stronger, there is one particular card, the Strength card, that when I saw this deck, I felt seen, really truly seen, my experience. This Strength card is me, or it was me. It was my experience not that long ago, and so that's just one of the main reasons why this deck and we are very bonded, and one of the reasons why I use it a lot when I feel like shit, because it sees me for me and everything that I'm going through and that I've gone through. So that's definitely one I use a lot. The next one I love for those days where I'm just feeling like shit and I'm in a lot of pain and I can't really be very mobile is the Fortune Queen's Tarot deck, which is a Drag Race inspired deck, which if you don't know Drag Race, you have to watch it after this video is finished. This is your homework, okay? Watching Drag Race will make your life better. I don't care what other people think. If you don't know what Drag Race is, this is a drag queen competition. You can find it on Netflix. You can Google it on YouTube, watch like best moments of Drag Race, things like that to get an idea, but pretty much it's a drag queen competition that's been going on for years, and the drag queens, they compete with each other for fashion, they do like stand-up comedy, they create their own outfits, they lip sync, they act, they dance. It's like everything. They're just amazing. I've watched these shows since it came out. My friends and I were obsessed. I've spent so many nights watching this show with my friends that this is, for me, it reminds me of my friends, because like I said, this is the kind of shows that when I still lived in England, my friends and I would watch religiously together. Now I'm far away, we still talk about it every time we catch up, and it's just this deck, it's like this show, it brings me a lot of joy. And so the fact that this deck is based on this drag queen competition, drag queen TV show, it brings me a lot of joy, because I'm sorry, but when you feel like shit, what else is better than drag queens being fabulous? Like, that's the best thing in life, right? You can't have a bad day watching drag queens doing their thing. They're just the best. And so this deck makes me very happy for that. So for all of you who know Drag Race, you're gonna recognize a lot of those queens. They are, the most famous queens of the last seasons. We've got some All-Stars winners, we've got some season winners, we have some very famous kind of lip sync moments, etc. Here's RuPaul, obviously, in the judgment card, calling out his queens. And so this deck is just a celebration of Drag Race as a TV show, but it's also very much an RWS clone, but just more fabulous, just more eleganza, extravaganza. And I'm so here for that. This deck brings me a lot of joy, so much joy. I love this deck so much because I cannot use this deck and feel bad. I can't. I love that the Empress is Ru. Like, thank you very much. This is the most brilliant Empress ever. I'm sick of those pregnant Empresses. A RuPaul Empress makes so much sense to me. Like, she gets to bask in her abundance while still knowing that she built something and a legacy for so many people to come. The backing has lipsticks and heels and fake lashes. It's just fabulous. I have 3 more decks to show you in my most used tarot decks of 2021. Still in the theme of supporting, healing, makes you happy. This one, Tarophona, is actually maybe even more specific in the sense that this is my inner child deck, or has been for 2021. This is an indie deck that is animal based, so it's only animal here. Again, because it's indie, I'll leave the link of where you can find this below. It doesn't come with a guidebook in the box, but you get a PDF when you purchase it that you can put on your Kindle or whatever. It's very soft, very beautiful. Why is this a better animal deck that works better for me? Is because the numbers of animals in this deck are quite reduced. For the feather suit, which is the sword suit, we only have owls, like a family of owls. The bears represent the pentacles, the foxes represent the wands, and finally the others represent the cup suit. So it's nice to have a limited number of animals, because I have found sometimes when there's too many animals in my tarot cards, I get a bit overwhelmed sometimes. And so I like this because the 4 suits are one animal family, and then the majors are one animal each. But they're all belonging to this kind of forest world, so it makes sense to me. The one thing I don't like about this deck is that there's not just one, but there's 2 spider cards. Like, who asked for this? Not me. I didn't ask for 2 spiders cards. One was plenty more than enough. I'm not a huge fan of spiders, purely because living on a tropical island, and having spent a lot of my childhood here as well, I have found spiders in a lot of places that they shouldn't be. I found spiders in my bathtub, I found spiders in my bed, I found spiders in my tarot deck. Yes, can you imagine? I literally found this spider trying to crawl in, guess what? My Goliath tarot deck out of all of my decks. At least the bitch had good taste, but the audacity, next level. Yeah, we have spiders a lot here, and especially right now that I'm filming this, we've just gone kind of over spider season, like November usually. November, December, see, there we go. Like, why? Did we need to? I don't think so. Then let me tell you that every single time I had to go to the bathroom at night, I would literally be out there with my phone lamp, checking every corner like I'm a freaking ninja, making sure that there's nothing hiding ready to jump on me. Despite the fact that it has 2 spiders in this deck, I find this deck wonderful. Look at the chariot, it's beautiful. The otters are probably my favorite suit. I really love otters. I find them so comforting and joyous. I love owls as well. So yeah, I just really like this deck. I don't know why for me this is inner child vibe, but it really does speak to my inner child. I think maybe because it looks like the books I would read when I was a child, and it makes me happy. I can't use that deck and be mad, so I love that one and I've used it a lot. Okay, the penultimate deck I want to talk about. This is a surprise. I didn't think I would use it as much, but I think for the first, I don't know, when did I get this deck? Did I get it in February? I think from at least 4 months. I was using this constantly this year. This is the Groovy Weight Tarot by Tarot Collectibles. This is another indie deck, and I'll put the link below. I have the borderless edition. Mine didn't come with a box or anything. It just came like that, so I keep it in this beautiful little pouch that my friend Jen made me. Thank you, Jen, if you're watching. She is very talented seamstress, and I actually keep a little turquoise in it because I feel like it goes with this deck. This deck is very quirky. It's an RWS clone, but based on the 60s. So 60s, 70s, I think. Yeah, maybe more 70s actually. It's groovy, okay? Everything is very rainbow, psychedelic, mushroom, flared pens kind of vibe. So yeah, I guess actually more 70s. Everyone looks like they're on an acid trip, or that they're going to Woodstock, that they've taken mushrooms and they're just living their best life, crossing the different levels of dimension. Like, the hermit isn't even realizing that his stick is turning into a snake, is so high. I don't know, this deck makes me happy because it's, first of all, the colors are brilliant. The galaxy, the rainbow, so many rainbows, so many amazing, just vibrant colors. Look at this moon card. I think there was a couple of extra cards in this deck. We had also a card that was like this bear smoking weed. Bookmark now. I think I've took it out, but that was pretty fun. And it's just impossible to be mad using this deck. For me, this deck brings me light. It brings me... Even the tower is quite fun, I think. Despite it being a tower, it's not daunting. The deaths look like she's having a great time. With this deck, I remember to not take myself too seriously. I remember to look at the positive side of things. I remember to smile. I remember that everything is temporary and that good times are ahead. And I think it's this explosion of color that makes me so happy. Oh, look at this manicure. I'm so here for that. I need to actually recreate that. I love pink, green, blue, pink and purple. I'm gonna do that. There we go. I can even get nail inspo with this deck. It's just great. I don't know why I love it so much, but I've used it a lot this year, especially beginning of the year. I would do all of my personal readings with this. This is one I've used for my friends as well. They love it. It's not threatening. It still follows the RWS, so for me it's very easy to read. I don't have to figure out what it's trying to teach me. I know, and you know, for people who don't really know tarot, which none of my friends are into tarot, I'm the only one. They like me to read their cards, like they'll have questions and stuff, but they don't, you know, they don't have decks really. Some of them have oracle cards, but that's about it. Not really tarot. Look at this devil card. Yeah, they love, and I feel like even people who don't know tarot still want their cards read. They really like this deck because it's funky and it still does the job. Last deck. I am so dehydrated. Thank God it's the last deck because I'm losing my voice. I've been filming for so long. We have The Mermaid Tarot by Lisa Robertson, illustrated by Julie Dillon. This is a surprise in the sense that I thought I would like it because it's, you know, the ocean and my channel is called The Waves of Your Soul. My name is Marine. You know, if that wasn't a hint, I like the ocean. But mermaids are not necessarily my favorite thing. I'm actually more of a dragon person, funnily enough. So I wasn't 100% sure I would really like this deck, but actually I really do. So I've just shown you the box. I hope you could see that there's like a big guidebook in there and it's really great, like a ton of information. Lisa Robertson's guidebook usually, especially if you're a beginner, I feel like she gives you a lot to start with. Here are the backs and I have edged my copy in blue. So this is definitely another deck that I go to when I need comfort, when I need a little bit of a hug from the universe, but more so, especially even more by this idea of connecting to the ocean. I mean, I live on a tropical island. I can see the ocean from my window right now while I'm speaking to you guys. So the ocean is a very big part of my day-to-day life here, in the sense that even now, whilst I'm recovering and in my health journey, getting my body stronger, etc., I'm even like going, because the pools are closed still because of COVID, I am going to the ocean to do some of my exercises, some of my strengthening exercises for like physical therapy. So I go to the ocean quite a lot and I'm very privileged and very lucky to be able to do that. But this deck helps me connect with that energy. I find this deck really great also for any kind of emotional readings. I tend to go to either the Sasurai Bito or this one for like relationship readings, whether that's friendship or relationship to yourself or family readings, things like that. I find this deck very good for that. It's just a great all-rounder deck, honestly. This deck is really interesting because even though it's mermaid base, it has a very interesting structure because every suit represents a different type of merfolk. So the wands are very Polynesian, and so there's volcanoes and there's a lot of fire, which I love. The cups are more open water, ocean, you know, regular type of mermaid. The pentacles are mermaids or mermen or merfolk from rivers, like soft water merfolk. And finally, the swords are mermaids from the North Pole or South Pole, I guess the Arctic. So you still very much get the element of each suit, which I love. The mages are great. There's definitely a theme of taking care of the ocean here, taking care of the environment. There's mention of pollution, of taking care of the creatures such as whales and turtles, etc. So in that sense, it has a little bit of a sustainability feel, which I appreciate. And I love this deck, and I didn't think I would like it as much as I do, but it's beautiful. It has some nice, you know, ways of representing merfolk that is not just your stereotypical white slim, skinny, young girl that we tend to see a lot in other mermaid decks. And I like that. I like that it's merfolk from all around the world. The wandsuit, even though it's Polynesian and nowhere near where I live, like I'm in the Indian Ocean, not the Pacific Ocean, it still reminds me of home a little bit because we have a volcano here, and that combination of the energy of volcano with a volcanic island with the ocean, it very much reminds me of home. So I think that's why as well I find this deck so comforting. So my friends, if you have made it this far, first of all, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you stayed with me throughout the video. Like I said, I did a specific videos for my top 5 tarot decks that came out this year. Those top 5 decks are actually decks I have used a lot this year. So if you want to see even more decks I enjoyed this year, make sure to check that video out. And if you've made it this far in the video, then you can comment a little mermaid or merman or merfolk emoji in the comments, because the last deck I've shown you is a mermaid tarot. It will let me know you watched the video till the end, and it will make me very happy to see lots of little mermaid and merman and merfolk. And let me know in the comments down below what were your most used tarot decks of the year. I know that some people don't use as many decks as I do. Some people like to use 1 or 2 decks for the year, and that's what works for them. But I like to have different decks for different things, and I read a lot for myself, like I said, and you know, some of them I've read for friends and etc. So let me know, how do you use your decks? Like, what are the decks that you use the most? And until my next video, as per usual, I am sending you so much good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!